Hey everyone, welcome back to the Belonging Experiment. I'm Anu, and as always, I am here with Roby. We are two friends who've moved around the world trying to find our sense of belonging wherever we land.
Yes, and we started this podcast to really share stories to, hopefully make you feel a little less alone on your own journey. And today we're diving into a topic that we wish we knew before moving abroad.
For anyone tuning in for the first time, we're both working women who have moved between different countries and navigating the challenges of finding community and connection. I am Anu. I moved from India to Japan and I'm currently living in Portugal.
Yes, and I am Roby. I'm originally from the Philippines, and when I met in Japan, and now I'm in the US. And we've had our fair share of challenges in adapting into the new places that we're in. And looking back, we hope or we wish there was someone who told us a lot of these advices that we're now learning before we packed our bags and moved to a different country.
Exactly. If I feel like Roby, if I had moved maybe 4 years earlier, I would not have had anyone to reach out to and say, how did you do this? The process of even moving back at that time was crazy. But before we jump into our topic, I have a question for you, which is our usual
Yay!
question, which we start every episode. Roby, what was one interesting thing that you did last week?
So I have a goal of running, hopefully, a marathon when I turn 40. That is the goal. Now, will I be able to achieve it? I don't know. But I am trying to run this day. So last month, we did some 5K. So last weekend, we're just doing our regular runs here, and we did a 6K run. So that's a little longer than I usually do. So I think that's a win for me. Yeah, something interesting. And really, you could feel that you're improving because of the consistency. I'm not the fastest runner out there, but I feel like I'm better than myself 1 month ago. So, yes. How about you, Anu? Something interesting that you did last week?
I kind of looked through my journal from last week to see what I did. And one thing that I noticed is I have finally started having schedule. So when I came here, I of course couldn't start working. I still can't start working immediately because I don't have my paperwork ready. But I was also slightly getting frustrated, just like not doing much and trying to keep to myself as much as I could. I realized that the television that we had in the Airbnb was a little too small for my likes. So my husband surprised me with a much bigger television that is a little pleasing for the eye. Now that we have a big TV, I can read the subtitles easily. But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is because this TV has become the center of my life. I feel like I wake up every morning, I have my coffee in front of the television, there's usually some music in the background, and then I do my dance workout, which I could not do with my smaller TV because of various logistic issues. But I'm able to do that, and then I have like a whole schedule. I'm not going to take you through it, but now I feel like I have a proper schedule that is centered around the television, but a schedule nonetheless, which makes me feel a little bit more productive. And it's crazy how something as materialistic as a television can give you so much meaning in life. I guess that's the reality of living in this technologically forward world today. God, I sound
Hey,
like a grandma. I guess I.
yeah. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Like, oh, you're shifting back to TV? What is this new era that you have? Are we listening news from the TV again? That happened before. But hey, I think that's one of the challenges in this connected world, right? So a lot of the sources that we have is all in our phones and internet. So it's refreshing to have a new routine. And I think
This
that's
is
a
true.
really good transition to our topic today, right? To have that routine.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So, what Ruby and I have done is we've prepared, I guess, two pointers each for the emotional journey and for the bureaucratic journey. So, Ruby, my question to you is what are the two things that you wish you knew before moving abroad from an emotional perspective?
Right. So when I was reflecting with this question, I was actually thinking if there was really someone who could give me an advice on these topics because I think it is something that you just realize once you're already there. So for the sake of sharing our own experiences so that, if any one of you is feeling the same way, know that you're not alone, right? So, my first learning is that once you leave home, there is really a high possibility that you will never be back home. Maybe forever, maybe for a long time. And when I left home when I was 16, I did not really think about that far, right? Because when you're
Mm.
16, there's a lot of possibilities. I just moved out because I went to college. And then I didn't realize that everything is just connected from there. Of course, after college, of course, you need to work. And then after that, life led me to Japan. And then I found someone now in the US. So I never really thought of that when I left home. And that realization made me feel that maybe I wish I did not rush the feeling of wanting to leave home when I was 16. Because back then, you're so excited to go to college, go to a different city, bigger city
Mm.
where compared to where I'm living. So I there was this excitement of I just want to leave home. I'm so excited to have my own life as an adult. And I wish someone told me that, hey, don't worry, you'll get there. That's the natural way of life. You will do it on your own. So just don't rush the whole move. I wish I could have enjoyed my mom nagging around and reminding me all of the little details, because that's actually one thing that I missed. Is like, okay, my mom is not here anymore to remind me. So I think that's one thing that really hits home when realizing, oh yeah, that's true. It's been almost more than 2 decades now. I did not really live, in my hometown again, and I'll probably not live there anymore. So that just makes me realize how fleeting life could be when it comes to decisions. So, yeah, I will let you go next first before I jump into my second one. What is your realization, or what is one thing that you wish you knew before moving abroad from an emotional aspect?
I think for me, it was the change in weather that I was really finding it difficult to embrace.
Mm,
So came, I mean, India's typically a tropical country, and we only know one season, which is summer. It's either summer or monsoon, and then summer and monsoon again. And we are not used to different eras, the different periods of weather. The four seasons I've never seen,
yeah,
only as a
yeah.
hotel, but not as the season itself. So when I came to Japan, it was, I mean, of course, we traveled to different places and we had some experience of what maybe autumn and spring are like, but I think nothing could prepare us or prepare me for Japanese winter. I didn't know it snows in Japan. The idea of snow would sound very appealing, but snow very unappealing, because as you know, in Japan the trains come to a halt, and then you're always slipping because you're not prepared. Like your shoes are not winter ready. I found out very very late in life that two types of denims exist. There's a summer denim and there's a winter denim. And I didn't understand how people are walking around with, like, these, the jeans, and I'm like, are you not cold? Because I'm freezing. Like, what are you wearing inside these jeans? And they're like, nothing. I'm like, what? It's really cold. I didn't understand.
And you
Uniqlo.
probably have seen the high school students that are not even wearing jeans, they're like wearing skirts. It's like, how are you not cold? How is this possible?
I was in like four layers, and I think my first winter jacket was the ugliest down jacket that Gap had, which I bought because I
It's
didn't
so
know the
big. Yeah.
importance of having a good down jacket. So I said, oh, it's only 2 months, who cares? And I just bought the ugliest one. And I'm walking around on the streets with like thick pants and boots up to my knees. And then I see Japanese schoolgirls with just like a long sweater, and you can't even see their shorts because they're hidden under the sweater and just bare legs. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Is something wrong with you, or is something wrong with me? I was very sure there's something wrong with me. But after living in Japan for 10 years, I was a little bit more prepared
Right.
for the weather. So, I mean, the reason I said all this is because every time winter came around, I would start complaining so much. I would never leave the house. So already autumn, I would go into hibernation and I would probably come out a little bit for cherry blossom season. So it's that almost like 6 months, just work and back as much as possible, stay indoors. I thought people were crazy to go skiing. I'm like, why on earth would you go and play in snow? It's cold. It's cold to a point where I feel like I missed so much of making the best of my time. When I had to leave, I suddenly felt like there's so much I didn't do.
Hmm.
But that also meant that I was trying to catch up on all the lost time in the last year, which I guess was tiring because some days I'm just like, I don't want to schedule anything today. I
Right, right.
just want to stay in the house. I had no regrets in terms of food, but I did in terms of going to different places. I feel like I could have done so much more. And but the good thing for me is the last 1 year that I stayed in Japan was the first time in my entire life that I had lived by myself, like no roommates, no family,
Oh,
nothing, just me and
wow.
myself in my own house, managing my own finances. Where I mean, of course, like you get to manage your finances even during your marriage, but my income was completely up to my discretion. So my late 30s for me were like my early
Right,
20s
right,
with a little bit of knee pain and
right.
graying hair and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And I think that was great. Yeah.
yeah. What a privilege, right? To be able to enjoy that, I think is a good um is a good blessing from all this transition. I think that's what I wanted to say. Because, well, it happened in your late 30s where you have a stable job, you have a secured relationship, because long distance relationships are not
Mm,
easy. So for you to be also to be enjoying your last year in Japan, you have all this moral support from people around you,
mm,
and just enjoying your alone time, like a break, a little break from there, but which is really not a break from marriage, but more of just giving yourself some time to prepare for the big transition that you will be doing.
yeah.
So I think that's a really
And I think
nice.
it was
Yeah.
good also for me and my husband at the end of the day because I feel like he also appreciated like a lot of things
Mm,
which I used to do for him before.
right.
But the fact
That's
that he
nice.
didn't have it, then he's like, oh
Oh,
yeah, this feels
oh,
good.
I actually
Because
really love my wife.
yeah.
Yeah. Good. So your story a little bit touched on investing in yourself. And I think that's my second realization is also investing in myself. And what I realized in my journey is you cannot dream what you do not know. And I'll explain a little bit on this one. So I first came to Japan as a master's student. I got a scholarship and I was so in a way, I didn't choose Japan. It life led me there because there was the scholarship. It was near the Philippines. It was a good transition for my next living abroad journey. I met a lot of people from my class, let's say, who were in Japan for a long time already because they moved there when they were 16. They went to college there. And when I was talking to them, it's
Mhm.
like, how is that possible? Oh, there's a lot of scholarships. And I didn't even know that was possible, right? When I was a high school student, I thought the possibility for me was to move to a bigger city in the Philippines to get a better education. I didn't even think about, hey, you can actually do an exchange program abroad, or you could try getting a scholarship in Japan, in the US, wherever that is. So I just suddenly felt like I didn't even know that was possible, and I couldn't dream it because I didn't know that it was possible. So that made me realize that it's very important at a young age that we encourage people, if we will ever have kids in the future, or even our niece, nephews, to support them to see different perspectives, because you could inspire them in dreaming, a big dream for themselves. So that's kind of like my realization. Check out, and if you're younger than us, check out different opportunities, scholarships out there that you might be interested. But also, I'm not sure if you've read the book Educated by Tara Hanover.
No.
So she was a young lady in Salt Lake, Utah, and she was a Mormon, and her world revolved around that. And I think her parents were not very supportive of her like moving to different cities to get educated, thus the title. But then she went to Harvard eventually. She's now a well-known researcher and writer. So that kind of like touched a little bit on this dreaming big, but also sometimes dreaming big is limited because you didn't know what was possible. So yeah, yeah, that was my realization.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had that feeling when I met all of our interns
Yes,
in
yes.
our team. I feel like they had their lives figured out. Their thought process was so clear. And I wonder if I was like that at their age, or if I had the opportunities that they did at their age. But then to realize that, well, you didn't know,
Yes, yes.
but I used to learn so much from them because they were so opinionated in everything that they did. They really knew what they wanted. So always trying to work with them I felt made me a better person in the
Yeah.
process. Yeah, yeah, you're right.
What's
That
next for
brings
you?
us
Yes.
to the next segment, the physical challenges and the practical realities of moving abroad. So, Robbie, you are in the land of dreams. Tell me your first practical reality that you
Okay.
wish you'd known before.
Okay, maybe I'll talk a little bit about the visa journey in general. So, Philippines is among the weakest passport lists. We need visas to almost everywhere. Thank you. We could all relate to that. And so I think that was just one thing that was very difficult to explore, right? So let's talk about traveling first. Let's go light on this. So with almost everything, wherever you go, you need visa, unfortunately. But I think one good thing that happened was when we were in Japan, I feel like the process is more organized. So you go to the embassies in Japan and you'll be surprised. It's actually very straightforward. So while
Okay, very good.
yes, the reality is we have to take visas and get them before we travel, but you could also plan ahead and the processes I feel like is very organized. So that's one good thing of being in Japan, I think, is that
Mm,
there's a clear path to whatever goal you have. And I'm going to talk a little bit about getting your permanent residency. And before I get into this, maybe I have a question for you is, did you ever consider getting a permanent residency in Japan?
not in the first 5 years. After the first 5 years, it seemed more long term for us. So we were thinking about it at that time.
Hmm.
What I didn't know is that as a foreign national, you could apply for a Japanese passport provided you check certain boxes. I wasn't aware of what the process entailed at that time because I think by the time I finished my 9 year journey there was when others were finishing their 10, 11 years journey. And that's when they were having their stories of how they did the transition. That was something that I didn't know was possible. And I think that really kept me away from applying, even considering the process.
Hmm.
But the answer was yes and no. No in the
Yeah,
beginning and yes towards the
yeah.
end.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's one thing I wanted to share was my decision to apply for permanent residency, and I actually got the PR in Japan. And I think the decision for me was I wanted to feel settled in Japan, and thus I was considering, okay, maybe it's time to get the PR because then the advantage of that is your visa will not be attached to your work. So, just in case, for instance, you lose your job in Japan, you will still be able to stay in Japan. So I think that was the major decision factor for me to go for it. But also the processes became really easier eventually. So you don't have to wait for 10 years before you could get your PR. There's actually a
Mm,
path where they call it's a highly skilled visa. So if you meet certain points, then you can apply for your visa even before 10 years. So I think those were the things that helped me decide that okay, I'll go for my PR. But I wish someone told me that there are repercussions or there are things that will affect long term, especially if you decide to move out of Japan. So I think that's my first advice to everyone who's looking into Will I take the permanent residency? Yes or no? Make sure you study not only on how you should apply and how you should get your PR, but just on the rare case that you might be leaving that country, how will it affect you? Because in my case, what how it affected me is, oh, my retirement, for instance. So we have this national pension that we're paying in Japan, and I couldn't withdraw that lump sum when I left because I'm a PR. So I have to wait until, they call it the old age before you can actually get your pension, which again is nothing. It's
60.
not, yeah, not good or bad. It's just, well, that's now the case because they consider you kind of like a part of the citizens, let's say. So yeah, first advice when you're looking into the visa, not because you are eligible to apply for it, you should go for it, but also consider just in case, you need to move out, what are the impact to you? So that is my
Just
first
to just to
practical.
add there,
Yes.
for the listeners who are not aware of the possible amount that could get paid out, for somebody I know who was at a high staff to managerial level, who moved, they got their pension money back because they were not PR. They approximately got back about 17,000 euros.
Wow.
This is with the bad exchange rate. So that's typically the cost of getting the PR,
Right.
essentially, of
Yes.
losing that particular amount.
Yeah. Or
It's a big amount.
delaying the takeout, let's say, because you could still take it, but at an older age, right? So
But the thing is, when you take it out at an older age, the exchange rate gets
you don't
worse over a
know.
period of
You just
time.
don't know, right?
This is true. The expectation is that the exchange rate gets worse. So
Right.
just again, for the listeners who are not aware, the exchange rate when I went to Japan, one USD was about 100 to 110 Japanese
Yes,
yen.
correct. Yeah.
Today, it's 50% more. It's
Yeah, it's
between
dropping
140
now.
and
It's getting
150.
stronger. So it's 140
Yeah,
today. Yeah.
it's dropping now.
So
Yeah, it's 140 today. But yeah,
yeah, that's one of the things,
that's money
which
lost.
I think I'll just finish off on my second point because it's a little related to that, the financial considerations, right? So, of course, we moved to Japan on my early 30s, late 20s. Here, just starting off with work, but eventually I left 10 years later. So, where your priorities have changed dramatically. So now I'm concerned about my retirement plan, my savings, my investments. Where should I put my money? So I think these are the things that when we first move into the country, we're just so busy settling in, finding a job, finding your own community, and eventually all these practical realities will creep in. And, where should I put my money? Oh, there is possibly an economic downturn. So all of that is something that we just need to prepare. And my advice for that is there's a lot of resources online. There's a lot of people who move to the country that you are in ahead of you, and they will have practical advice on this thing. So just educate yourself on that and prepare for the changing priorities, especially when we grow older. And maybe one more thing that I just wanted to add with financial considerations: if you're transferring money back to your home country, I found two useful apps that has a good rate, good fees. One is Wise, so they're almost everywhere. Yes, I see Anu, she's probably using it as well, and very easy. And yeah, the rates and the fees are really low, which I think is really good, especially in versus, let's say, using the traditional wire transfer companies. If you're coming from the US, one more thing is Remitly. That's the name of the app, which is also has low fees. So those are the two practical advice that I have for you if you're moving money abroad or if you're sending money to your home countries. Yes. So let me hear yours, Anu. What's your practical realities?
So, two things. Anyone who knows me knows how much I hate paperwork. I genuinely can't stand it. And the biggest difficulty of moving, for me personally, the most difficult bit was the paperwork involved. One, bringing our kitty cats in.
Oh,
We had to make sure that we had approvals from our doctor and we had EU related approvals at Japan. Now, of course, I spoke to a friend and I asked her what the process is, and she helped me with all the relevant information. I reached out to them months in advance and I got everything in place.
mm-hmm.
However, there was a very, very small confirmation from them that I missed at some point, which didn't make things difficult from a process perspective because I'd sent all the documents to them weeks in advance to the Haneda International Airport. But I didn't receive confirmation from them. And
Mm.
I wasn't sure what the scene was, but I knew they had acknowledged the document and everything to a point where my vet had called the Haneda International Airport, the pet quarantine services, to check everything. And he even asked me, he's like, which one is it, Narita Airport or Haneda Airport? So because I said Haneda, he called them up, and I even confirmed that by email, saying my vet spoke to you.
Mm.
Anyway, there was paperwork that I didn't need, but I still put that inside because after years of moving, I've learned now to expect the worst. And we went to the airport 4 hours in advance,
Right.
which I feel like was the right thing to do because the whole process took like an hour, even though everything was done. Everything was done, but it took us an hour. And once we went and we got the paperwork done, they were like, you didn't tell us you were coming. I said, yes, I told you. Please check your email. And they were like, no. I was like, and I had a printout of it. I'm like, here is my email to you. Here are all the documents that I've sent you. I had a file with everything, like some 150 pages of documents for both the cats included, originals, extra printouts, everything. And then they were like, they were a little surprised because I feel like I guess they didn't acknowledge it, but they were also a little bit like, yeah, everything is in place, so whatever. it was it was scary for me because for me nothing else mattered other than their paperwork at that time. So that bit was really, really hard. And I think that's when we also got the first sample of European bureaucracy because we had already asked the travel agent to inform the flight, and it was already available. Like the detail on the ticket is already available saying that we're bringing two cats. And then I'm like, I feel like I want to check again because I don't know what to
Yeah.
expect. So they basically said, so I think we called the travel agent. We said, what do we do? They're like, there's a form online, fill the form online and send it out. So I put all the details on the form and I sent it out. Zero acknowledgement. I didn't hear anything. I was like, now what do I do? So then we called again the airline to say what's happening. And they're like, you should have heard back. You haven't heard back? I'm like, no. That went on for a bit. And then I think a week before departure, we called and said, guys, what's happening? Like, did you get the mail? Did you get the form? And then they
Mm-mm.
were like, oh, so you need to make a payment and you need to make it right now to confirm that you can take cats with you. I'm like, so you didn't know? I've So, long story short, we made the payment and everything that I confirmed on the form, I reconfirmed in person and on the phone, and then I reconfirmed in person as well. The departure was a little bit of a nightmare. I wanted to have my moment of sitting in my favorite coffee shop in Haneda Airport and be like, this is my final goodbye, but I didn't get that. I wanted to make sure that I stocked up on onigiris from the 7-Eleven in Haneda Airport. I didn't get to do that as a result. But
But
the
everything.
bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Everything was good. Everything was good. They gave me the European documents. And when we landed in Germany, I showed it at the immigration counter and they were like, yeah, we don't need this. I'm like, what do you mean? You don't need this? Like I had like a stack of papers. I'm like, here you go. Like I have like
Yeah. Yeah.
European Union authorization. They're like, that's okay. I'm
You
like,
just
So
you just
what did I
wasted
do
my
this
time.
for?
No. But you know what?
No, I don't.
It's better to be over prepared. That's what I learned. I think that's a lesson
Yeah,
that we
I don't
learned
think
from
it's a
in
waste of
Japan.
time.
No,
I
no,
think,
yeah,
yeah, I think they wouldn't have let the cats on board without the paper.
correct.
But it was unnerving for me to think that they never want to see the paper ever again. I guess that's how much Europe trusts Japan in the paperwork. So that
Right,
one was a thing. That one was painful.
right.
The second thing for me, which is in connection, is I think everybody knows, anybody who possibly tried, who lives in Europe or who's thinking of moving to Europe understands that European bureaucracy and paperwork is very, very painful. Portuguese bureaucracy takes it to the next step. I was aware that it's going to be a long, drawn out, and a very slow process. But despite my pessimism, it's taken longer than we hoped. And for me, it's two things, right? On one side, you have to be positive. In my head, I'm like, you have to be positive. You have to think good things, and good things will happen, and you have to manifest all the good things. And then on the other side, there's the reality of, well, it's not happening. So it's a constant battle of mindsets for me between the two. But at the end of the day, I think just going back to something that you said, I don't. Everybody that I talk to on the phone says it's frustrating to hear, but it's the reality to say you might never get this time ever again. The time that you're having to yourself, what you're doing for yourself, you're just sitting and reading like so many books and watching so many shows and just doing what the hell you want. It's the dream, live it. And I'm like, but I'm so bored. So
Yeah.
it's yes, I think bad bureaucracy means I get some time for myself, and
Yeah. Finding
that's
finding the good in the current seemingly not, good situation. So that is
yeah.
really
I mean, it's true. There's so many things like the fact that I am sitting in Europe and complaining about my life itself is a privilege.
right.
And many
Right.
times I try to check myself to say what
Yeah.
you're doing right now is a privilege. The fact
Correct.
that I can go sit on a river beach and complain about Portuguese bureaucracy, the fact that I
Yes.
can sit with this beautiful wisteria background and,
Recording your
and complain about
podcast. I think
recording my podcast on this
yes.
beautiful sunny day with
Yes.
you, Roby, is such a privilege which I have to constantly check myself
Correct.
and
Yeah.
come to
Wow.
terms with.
And I'm just really thinking because this is about the same time last year when I was starting all my packing back in Japan. I moved with my friend already, moved out of my house. So yeah, this is almost 1 year of from the time that I left Japan. So it's just a lot of reflection. And I know that I will get to this point where, yes, this too shall pass. So now this is fast forward my life here in the US, right? So that's a lot of reflections, a lot of learnings for both of us, which I guess will lead us to maybe wrap up this episode. Maybe I would just, yeah,
Maybe,
what,
yeah. Maybe let me
yeah.
quickly summarize some of the points that we discussed. So, I think from the emotional side, one thing that's important is don't rush your life stages. I was
Mhm.
thinking about what you said, and this is something that I've heard often when I was young, because we couldn't wait to grow up. Like we couldn't wait to be adults, having our own money and being
You'll get
independent and
there.
everything.
Don't worry.
But but little do people tell you this period is probably very, very short. And if you miss it, well, you miss it. That's it. So don't rush your life stages. The second one that I think comes from the factor that I learned is always prepare for the unknown in terms of weather or language. I think it's really important there are so many things that we can't control, but what we can control is how we react towards things. So for me, it's always about preparing myself both in terms of doing the right research, but also mindset wise. If things
Mm,
don't work, well,
mhm.
yeah, they don't work. So move on. And
Yeah,
number three, I have written down, I really liked what you said. You said you can't dream about what you don't know. And which is why I think you and I make sure that if not anything, we make sure that we can share our opportunities with people to say, here is what I did, this is the resource that I used, here is how we went about it. This is something I think that's really important for anybody who's watching this, who's had good opportunities. You don't have to support people in terms of with finances or anything, but give them the right guidance. Take a few minutes and spend your time and give them the right guidance to help them find these resources. And I think that will really go a long way in helping people out. About the practical aspects, I think anything that's good, there is also a downfall to it. So make sure that you do sufficient research and understand
right.
the pitfalls of whether it's your visa process or moving process. For me personally, knowing what won't work always makes me adjust a little better to the
Absolutely. Yes.
location.
Yeah.
Like the biggest pitfall of moving to Europe is you can't manage with just English. So you can't
Hmm.
come here and complain saying, "Oh my God, everybody's speaking in a different language." Yes. The sooner
Yes.
you learn a
Yeah.
new language, the better it is. And I think the second one is about documentation and bureaucracy. Over preparation is always good.
Yes. Yes.
Being maniacal about this is always good. It only benefits you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my summary of our
No, a
discussion.
lot of learnings, and hopefully you guys were able to pick up some of those practical learnings that we have, and you could apply it as well into your journey, whether you're moving abroad or you just moved into a new country. So I think the other key part here is to start building belongingness wherever you are. And maybe I just want to end this episode as well with some key tips that has worked for me now that I've been here for almost a year. So I think it's very important
Mm,
that when you're new to the country, and especially in both of our cases, we actually have, let's say, a gap year, gap months where we did not
mm,
work. So we did because of the visa situation. So we're not allowed to work. But I think change your mindset and change the narrative in your mind. What has helped me a lot is to remind myself that I could be living my best life, my best season at this very moment. Maybe this will never happen again that that I do not have to work, but I have the resources to spend because I had savings.
mm,
So I think you always have a long list of things that you wanted to do. This is a perfect time to do it when you're transitioning and you're still finding your job or whatever the situation is. Try to enjoy that and try to do the things that you've always wanted to do, but you did not have the time. This is the perfect time. It's important to create your own routines, your own rituals. So I think the first week that I was here, I already joined yoga in our public library every Monday. So that helped me. Of course, there will be awkward moments of, oh, I don't know everyone. Oh, I don't really just jive. So it's okay. You can just be there and enjoy the yoga. You don't have to even make friends at the beginning. Just be there and start that routine for you. So I know that every Monday I have something to look forward to because I have a yoga class that I will attend. And then from there, try to have certain schedules for yourself, right? And just try whether it's just going to a new coffee shop, for instance, and reading a book. That is a schedule. Right. So I think just to make sure your transition is really good, try to have a list as well of the practical things that you need to make your life easy in the new country. So in my case, I know that I need to drive. So the first priority for me was to get my driver's license, for instance. So, all those practical things that will help you to enjoy your new country, make it your priority, whether it's getting a driver's license or maybe making sure that you have your
mm.
social security number and all of those things, because those are the things that you need, for instance, to really open almost everything, open a bank account, start, all those practical needs. So, yeah, so make sure that you have a list of the things that you need to do to make your life or your transition easy in the new country that you have. So, what a beautiful episode. Yeah,
We thought we'll finish this in 20 minutes. We
I
thought this will
know.
be a short episode.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you all for being here. Like I always say, if you've come this far, we really appreciate your time. Thank you for staying with us. We're always curious to hear about listeners' experiences. Please let us know your experiences. Drop us a message at belongingexperiment@gmail.com. When we post this link on YouTube as well as on Spotify, you can find it there in the information in the details section. We'd love to hear from you about what you wish you knew before moving abroad. And yeah, Ruby,
Yeah.
would you like to tell them about our next episode?
So for the next episode, we will discuss what we lost and gained when we moved. So it's not all romantic, but did we have to let go of all of those things to start all over again? Ooh, that's really an interesting topic for next week. So guys, don't forget to subscribe, comment, share the podcast. It helps us reach more listeners who might be needing to hear all these stories and all these conversations. So catch you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.